is up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Meaning of Podcast. I am Ace.
This is RB3.
And this is the podcast where we talk about the deeper meaning of your favorite film directors.
Yeah.
And this episode is going to be a great episode because we're going to be talking about a director who has done both TV and movies.
Yeah.
And he's done very popular TV shows, at least one that's extremely popular, and that is Cary Fukunaga.
Ooh,
he is, I know, he's got that three names, bro. He's got that JGL.
All three of it, man.
Hey, man, that's I was telling you beforehand, I kind of like that he uses Joji. I don't know why. I just think it's cool.
Yeah.
Most people just call him Cary Fukunaga. I feel like when people think of Cary Fukunaga, obviously his claim to fame is True Detective, but I almost feel like almost equally his claim to fame is the dismantling of that It movie. I don't know if you agree with that, and I'm sure we're going to get into that a little bit. But for me personally, that's what when people say his name, when you hear his name in discussions, whether it be a movie podcast or whether it be people talking about his movies, they're like, "Oh, isn't that the guy who was writing It or something?" Because I feel like that whole situation it got pretty big attention. A lot of people found out about it. It wasn't necessarily like a quiet situation, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he was more vocal about it, but I mean, before the whole It controversy, of course, everybody knew him as the True Detective guy. But I mean, he also had a very strong indie presence too with
That's right.
With his adaptation of Jane Eyre. I remember people buzzing about that a little bit, particularly the performances, and then even on when he did Beast of No Nation, kind of blew down a lot of doors too.
That's true. Yeah, I feel like Beast of No Nation, but Beast of No Nation was after True Detective though, so I still feel like True Detective is his claim to fame still today, which is crazy, but it's true. True Detective became that show that everyone talked about.
Yeah, and the season 2 not so much. Since he left.
I was gonna say I like season 2.
Oh, you like season?
I was one of the few people who liked it. I was like, this was kind of cool. I liked it. I didn't think it was great. I didn't think it was amazing, but I was like, it wasn't bad. It was pretty good. Kind of like the Halloween movie that came out over the weekend, RB3. It was okay.
It was
fine.
Oh, you throwing shots from the top.
Hey, man, that's what happens,
I like
bro.
Halloween, man. Halloween was lit.
I thought it was fine. It was
movie.
fine. Yeah, it wasn't because I don't know, man. Maybe the hype kind of killed me. Because the hype was like, yo, this is like the greatest horror masterpiece. And I was like, not really.
It's not that, nah.
It's not, I don't think it's a great horror movie. I just think it's fine.
Yeah.
It's just fine.
I mean, it's a really good horror movie, though. It's the best. I think it's probably the best, second best Halloween movie.
But is that really a high bar?
I don't know. I've only seen 2 of them.
I was going to say, is that even really a high? I'm one of the guys, too, who obviously we talked about John Carpenter 2 weeks ago, but I even think the first one's, it created a lot of things, and I think that's, you got to give it credit for that, but I don't think it's like the greatest horror movie of all time. It's good.
Yeah.
I mean, it holds up, but
to me, it felt like this Halloween movie is The Force Awakens to the first Halloween Star Wars. You know what I mean?
That's a good
It's just essentially a remake, but repackaged
and still pretty
way.
good.
And still pretty good.
That's true.
Serviceable. Fans, new fans will get behind it. Because like I said,
introducing new characters, new actresses. Because the girl, I kind of liked her. She didn't do much, but I liked her.
Yeah.
Andy Matichak, I think is her name.
You could have taken her out the movie and still would have been the same movie.
Yeah, but I don't know. I kind of liked her. I feel like she had a little bit of charm to her. I was like, this girl's very charming.
Are they setting up a whole Halloween franchise?
I was gonna say, bro, is she gonna? Everyone's like, Michael Myers is back, and I'm like, is he just gonna walk out of them flames and be like, I'm a demon, bitch, or something like that?
Spoiler alert, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. Either way, it made $76 million. Everyone saw it.
This is.
But my thing is I hope they don't do random people take up the mask or something like that, because that would be kind of lame. But we'll see what they do. Either way,
I thought it was a dope movie.
I thought it was okay.
8 out of 10.
I thought it was fine. Nothing special.
You know what, man? This is so interesting to me, because I think I've hated every movie that's come out this year up until October.
Every movie we've disagreed with.
Pretty much, yeah. And then when I like First Man, when I like
I agree with you at first. I like First Man.
It's just interesting, because I just think I'm grateful that movies are above a 4 out of 10, because I think that's what every movie pretty much this year has been up until a couple.
You haven't hated any movie, is what you're saying? Or are you saying that I hate all the movies you like?
No, I'm just saying I feel like the Oscar movies are just barely bringing tolerable filmmaking like back into 2018. You know,
that's very true. I genuinely agree with you. I was thinking about First Man the other day, and I was thinking about like their Oscar run. To be honest, man, to be completely honest, and I know I'm stepping on people's toes, but Black Panther over First Man. Sorry.
Oh yeah, I think so.
Black Panther over First Man.
I think Black Panther
like so far, there's no Oscar type movie that I'm like that deserves it. This deserves the nomination for Best Picture or Best Actor or whatever. I'll put Black Panther over First Man. I think it deserves a nomination more than First Man. I think it accomplished more things in the movie than First Man did in their movie.
Yeah, I mean,
there's great moments in First Man, but as an overall film, Black Panther.
Yeah,
and that's probably controversial or whatever, but I still feel like it deserves a nomination over that movie.
Well, I think, and I think Black Panther, definitely got a nomination at this point. But I think the bigger question is if it'll actually win, because I think
that's not happening.
I don't think that's too big of a.
That's true. What other big movie? Vice looks like it's going to be big.
This is the first movie since Avatar and The Force Awakens to make $700 million domestically, 98% on Rotten Tomatoes, and it promotes the cultural diversity wave that the Academy is going for.
That's true.
And when you look at all the websites, Go Derby, IndieWire, shit, all of them have Black Panther at the top. Yeah. As of right now,
I think nomination for sure. I win is going to be tough. What do you think is the competition for it?
I think BlacKkKlansman is gonna also be nominated.
Dude, that thing disappeared. Yeah. I think Black 100% is one of the best movies of the year.
Yeah.
That's in my top 2 of the year this year.
Yeah.
Black Klansman.
I definitely think BlacKkKlansman is also in.
What
Stars
else?
Born's in. I mean,
that's another one. Like A Star Is Born. It was good.
Yeah,
it was good.
Yeah.
But it's not like it's gonna win. This is amazing. Like it was good.
Now, what I can't wait for is if Beale Street sings the new one from the homie who did Moonlight, Barry Jenkins. It's based on the book by the African American writer.
Oh, that's right. I heard about this movie.
Yeah. I can't remember.
I haven't seen anything from it though.
Yeah, I heard it screened at TIFF and got like amazing critical reception. Cool. So I think that one's gonna do.
I think good. Vice is
gonna be good with Adam McKay.
Yeah, Adam McKay there with writing and maybe directing and maybe even acting with Christian Bale.
Yeah, I mean, people really love A Star Is Born. I think that one's gonna get like
it was
best
good.
director.
Like, you see what I'm saying? Like, I just don't see like best. I wouldn't give Bradley Cooper Best Actor. I wouldn't give Lady Gaga Best Actress too. I mean, I can accept the nomination, but not a win. To me, it's like it was good, but nothing special.
Bohemian Rhapsody is gonna.
Bohemian Rhapsody probably will get a
Best Actor.
Best Actor at least. Yeah, I'm starting in that movie. I'm wearing a mustache in that movie.
Malik is back.
Bro, you know what's funny? I was at the ArcLight, and this will be our last thing, I promise, guys, and we'll get into Cary Fukunaga. I was at the ArcLight watching what did I just see? Halloween. Oh my god. And it's so funny because I saw the outfit stuff that they do, and they had the Rami Malek Freddie Mercury wife beater and jeans.
I thought they had like some fantastic.
And usually they have like Ant-Man's suit, Thor's suit, and it's like here's Rami Malek's little, wife beater and blue jeans that Freddie Mercury wore in that famous concert, right?
Yeah.
And one guy came up to it and he turns to an ArcLight employee, like desperate to know information, and he turns to him and he says, "Oh my, is that his real size? Is he really that small?" And the ArcLight employee is like, I don't know, but yeah, I hear he's like a really short guy. And I'm walking by and I really want to turn to the guy so bad and be like, "He's my size. What are you trying to say, man? What's wrong with tiny dudes, man? You got a problem against little dudes?"
Hey, man.
But yeah, that was just a funny moment I thought.
You're like taller than me, man. So stop making me feel bad.
I don't know, man. I've always had a thing where I'm like, I want to be like a good 5'11". It's like, nope, I'm not gonna be 5'11" ever. But before we get into Cary Fukunaga, guys, let's get into your comment section from last week where we talked about Damien Chazelle and First Man. A few of you guys commented. Usually, it's the people that we love. It's the people that always comment, and we appreciate you guys and we love you guys. Starting with Movie Man Naked Jesus. Who says audience score is low because trolls caused the flag controversy. We mentioned that. I said I don't think that's why, but I don't know. What do you think? Do you think that played an effect on it?
I still think that plays a big effect. And I think especially when it comes into politics, like people just get like super trigger happy with shit. So I definitely think like that's a big. I think without that controversy, like it wouldn't be the highest audience score. I still say it'd probably be like 76, 77 or something like that. But 61, I mean, that just tells me that. I mean, that's the same shit that like happened to The Last Jedi. Like they got a bunch. And again, like I don't really think The Last Jedi is a good movie. I don't think it deserves a high audience score as high as of a critic score. But that score is overwhelmingly because there's a bunch of like racist jerks who are like going in there. So
yeah, it's always odd to see Rotten Tomatoes scores because I just saw the Bohemian Rhapsody one, which is like 50% or something like that.
Really?
Yeah.
The Freddie Mercury for the has it even come out yet?
It hasn't. No, it's the first 30 critics, I think, is what it is. When they do the first 30, and then they have the Rotten Tomatoes score for the first 30 critics.
50%?
50%.
Damn,
that's what I saw. It might be less, it might be more now.
I've been hearing people like raving about it around here.
Right? Everywhere I checked on Twitter, they were talking like it was amazing.
Yeah, it was like the best movie ever made.
But it's 50%, and that's why it's kind of funny, Rotten Tomatoes, because you never know what goes into people's decisions. I don't want to get into like how critics can be biased, but there's a Bryan Singer angle that could be. The Bryan Singer stuff could be, critics kind of turned off to it. I don't know what else it could be that made people really think this movie's mediocre and not great.
Well, I know it had a lot of controversy about like not portraying Freddie Mercury's sexuality fully.
It's all over the freaking trailers.
But
I don't get that.
Well, like he's gay, right? Or he's bisexual.
I think he's bi, yeah.
Yeah. So then, but they only show him like interacting with women like throughout the trailers.
No, they don't. There's a scene where he like literally touches a guy's face, like caressing a dude's face.
Touching a guy's face.
Yeah, it's a trailer.
Yeah, I mean, but like
we don't know what happens in the movie.
But I think people are just upset because it's a more significant amount that at least the marketing portrays.
I think that's a dumb decision if that's really the case.
Well, but I will say that we do have to remember, no matter how controversial Bryan Singer is, he's gay himself. So
yeah,
I think a lot of people don't put that into or I don't know if he's like fully gay, if he's bisexual.
No, I'm pretty sure he's
but like he puts a lot of that messaging into
I don't.
a lot of his
I'm
movies,
I'm actually gonna counter you, and I don't think that's the case. But we won't know until we'll see the movie.
Yeah,
but I don't think it shy ways from.
I've read reviews where people were like, "Oh, I thought that wasn't gonna address it, but it addresses it very sensitively." So.
Yeah, I mean, Rotten Tomato scores are always kind of funny to see why it's high and why it's low. First Man, I think a little bit of it was due to that, but I don't think a lot of it was. But it's again, we talked about it last week, how it's so funny that was a controversy, even though this movie is like super pro-America.
Yeah.
It's super pro-America. Like everyone would love it. Gunslinger 199 says, "Don't worry, RB3, all bald people look alike." Ooh. Shots fired.
I was getting Corey Stoll and the other
Corey Stoll. Yeah. I think I saw the trailer again and I'm like, how could he not know that's Corey Stoll?
Nah, man. I thought that was Paul
I thought of
Scheer.
you. I was like, man, come on, man. It's Corey Stoll.
You got Paul Scheer's haircut, man.
Is Basis 1996 says Chazelle is one of my favorite film directors of all time, just for Whiplash alone. That movie is so intense and one of the most satisfying endings I've ever seen. Probably in my top 10 of all time. Another great episode, guys.
Amen, brother.
Thank you.
Amen.
Yeah, it's a great ending. And we talked about, how intense that moment is and how beautiful that moment is. And the fact that he just ends it on that note is just perfect. Mm-hmm. Now let's get into Cary Fukunaga. A director that we were talking about earlier. Let's start out right at the bat about the whole It thing and the fact that I feel like Cary is both famous for what he's done with True Detective and he's famous for his films, but he's also famous for being a director who's very outspoken as being an auteur, right? An auteur director, right? Which is kind of the whole basis of our podcast, is about the definitions of a director and the power of storytelling that a director can have and can hold over people. And the reason why he's known for this kind of stuff, obviously, is for True Detective and having the full creative freedom to work with, I forget the guy's name, Nick Palazzi.
I think, that's the True Detective.
Yeah. And have a collaboration with him and then work with two actors and have a full collaboration with them to create a giant 10-episode movie or 8-episode movie, which essentially is what it is. And he's very vocal about the fact that he wants creative freedom. He wants to have the director's stamp of approval, and he wants the budget in order to accomplish what he does. I saw an interview he had a long time ago when he was promoting Beasts of No Nation, and he was talking about the ability to have the right budget to accomplish his vision. And I think that's something that we live in a time now during this film circle that we're in, RB3, where a lot of people talk about like Jordan Peele. He made Get Out for like, pocket change and stuff like that. And it's the idea of like elevating directors for having no money and accomplishing their vision. Whereas Cary was saying that's kind of an unfair thing, because if I want to complete my vision, you should trust me with this kind of money, and I can fully, show what I want to show, whether that be situations at the border with Sin Nombre, or whether that be the craziness of True Detective in the landscape of Louisiana. Whatever it is that he wants to use his money for, he says that directors should have that kind of budget, a decent sized budget, and not just like, we'll give you $5 million, that kind of situation. He's a very vocal director in the sense that, let me have my vision. And a lot of that came from the It situation, right? Where he wrote the script, showed it to Stephen King. Stephen King loved it, and basically pushed back with the studio a lot about what they wanted to do and how far they wanted to push the envelope. And then eventually he even casted his own Pennywise, and then eventually it just disappeared and went into nowhere. And they hired Andy Muschietti. It's a situation that I feel got his name in the headlines quite a bit in the film circle. What do you think about that whole situation that went down? And Cary Fukunaga as a director himself being such a vocal person talking about having creative artistic vision and decisions.
Well, I'm with all directors getting as much creative freedom as possible. The dwindling budgets is an epidemic in Hollywood right now. I even looked at the budget. Halloween is a movie I really loved, not loved, but I really enjoyed. And that movie was only made for $10 million. But, that's the Blumhouse model of making movies nowadays, is just like shoot them for cheap and expect the high profitability margin. And granted, a lot of times you can make movies for that cheap because they're not paying big stars. I mean, Halloween doesn't have any big stars, big A-list producers, directors, or whatever. So a lot of times budgets do get inflated by like big egos, big personalities, big people being in it. But for the case of Cary Fukunaga, when you watch, or am I saying his name correctly? I'm just not even
Fukunaga, yeah.
I'm not even gonna try. Whenever you watch one of his movies, you see all the money on screen. You know what I mean? And not just the money with the actors, but with the camera work, with the locations. I mean, every one of his films has a very distinct cinematic quality to it, and even throughout his television work as well. And he expands on that and maximizes that as well. So I think for any creative, having the right budget is necessary. Now with the It situation, that's interesting because I've been following that, and of course, being a big fan of True Detective and Beast of No Nation, I was very excited to see what the It project was going to look like. And I read the leaked script that.
You read the whole thing?
Yeah.
Crap.
I mean, I was into it. Well, it was also because at the time I was kind of bullshitting a project for It. I had to read the book It, but I didn't read the whole book. I just had to focus on the parts with Mike because it was for racial relations or whatever.
Sure.
At least that's what I was writing on. So then through that, I ended up reading a lot of the It book and kind of reading a little bit of the script just so I had an understanding of what was happening or whatever. And the whole idea of It in the book is taking the traditional horror cliches and then just kind of flipping it into these children. And then the whole idea of Cary's thing was just no, we're not gonna do that, because in the book it's all the werewolf, the mummy, all these iconic movie characters. But in his adaptation, he kind of just stripped all of that back and wanted to make it as purely internalized fears as possible. Which I think was amazing. And what we ultimately end up seeing in the movie is 90% of what was in that original script.
I was going to say, that kind of is what the movie did.
Yeah,
what Andy's movie did, or Andres' movie, he's got my name, Andres. Andres Muschietti. He kind of did that. He kind of... I'm still curious if he has credit on that script. Oh, he doesn't? I'm looking it up right now, but screenplay by Cary Fukunaga.
Yeah, I mean, because it's very
2017. It's still written by Cary, screenplay by Cary Fukunaga.
Is that he's the only credit, or?
No, I mean there's Chase Palmer also.
Okay. It's probably
But Chase Palmer, here it is right now. Chase Palmer, Cary Fukunaga, Gary Doberman, and based on the novel by Stephen King.
3 writers on it.
Three writers, but essentially it's a Cary Fukunaga script.
There was a lot of that script. And, and he was, and, you even see it in the scene with the leopard. One of the main difference was the scenes with the leopard, with the little kid. Who, or maybe not that one. But anyway, one of the scary parts was originally an old lady getting out of a bathtub in the same way in The Shining.
Oh, yeah, it's the Jewish kid. I forget his name.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of the painting that comes to life?
Yeah. The original scare in the script was an old lady coming out of a bathtub. And very reminiscent of The Shining. So, like when, but that's the parallel here. He didn't want to make the same movie that Andy Muschietti made. He wanted to make a very artistic, art house, weird, crazy It movie. That's what that was the intent that he was going for. And if he wanted to make it like The Shining, very artsy, very weird, and the studio just didn't want that. They wanted something more commercial. So it's just fascinating that
it's incredibly fascinating, and it's fascinating because I loved it. I loved Andy Muschietti's It, and I thought it was great. And I do feel like it was very commercial and very appealing to almost. I kind of said almost to all ages. Not quite like, hey, it's for kids, but it's almost for all ages, right?
Yeah.
I personally felt that. I mean, considering that it was rated R too, right? It's an R-rated movie, but I don't mind a 13-year-old seeing this movie or a 14-year-old seeing it. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's not that kind of like hard R, crazy, this is messed up kind of stuff. It was more of like everyone can kind of enjoy this battle that these kids are having. Yeah. And I think that's eventually the product that we got versus the product that Cary would have given us would have been a little bit more smaller audience, I think, would have enjoyed it. Maybe a few audiences would have been put off by it, considering the stuff that he wanted to do. Because I think he really wanted to push the envelope. I think that scene was one of them. But I forget, he also mentioned like a few other moments in the film that would be a little bit like, yo, these are kids, man. That's my stuff. That's weird. Considering these are children in the movie, and they very much don't shy away from the fact that they're kids. But yeah, it's incredibly fascinating to see the development process of Cary, the script, Andy, the replacement, because Andy also had I always forget if it's his wife or his sister. I think it's his sister producing it with him. So they had that producing team. And they also had, I think, I might be wrong, but I think Guillermo del Toro was one of the people who kind of dropped the mic on Andy too.
Well, he originally was the director of Mama.
I know that, but I'm saying I think Guillermo del Toro is the kind of homie to be pick up a phone and be like, yo, this is my homie. He legit. And the studios are like, all right, cool. He's the kind of homie to do that. So I think that happened with it too. I might be wrong, but considering the relationship that Guillermo has with Warner Brothers, but yeah, it really is fascinating to see the development process and to see how much he wants to make an art house type movie, and they wanted a much more commercial movie. And what ended up happening was a very commercial movie, and it's the biggest R-rated opening of all time. Yeah. One of the biggest R-rated movies of all time. So I find that situation all fascinating, but eventually he still got his start with short films, which is usually what we see with directors. Cary Fukunaga is, I believe he's half Japanese. I think his dad grew up in internment camps. I don't know if it was in Japan or if in the U.S. Wow. But he has, or his grandpa did. No, his dad was a third generation Japanese American born in an internment camp during World War II. And his mom was Swedish American. So he has that kind of dynamic of having that fascinating, crazy, disturbing tale that his father can tell. And that type of storytelling coming from his father, I believe, is what influenced his hand in directing, and why the majority of all Cary Fukunaga's filmography, essentially, or his work, his what he does, is dealing with subject matter that's very, very visceral, very real, and very grounded in reality. That's Sin Nombre, that's Beast of No Nations, that's True Detective. Those types of shows and those types of movies, I personally feel the fact that his father grew up in an internment camp has a huge influence on that. Because when you hear direct storytelling, first-person storytelling of a dad telling you this story, and he talked about it in the interview, how his dad would tell him this story and he would keep asking him questions because it's such a crazy, disturbing, story that it impacted him in such a manner that he wants to tell these types of stories. And that's the types of stories we get with the three stuff that I just named. And that's the kind of content he made, which is why he had a fascination with child soldiers in Africa, right? He made a short called Kofi about the commandant in Africa, which was hugely popular when he made that. I mean, it got national news, it got worldwide news. He made Victoria para Chino. I have no idea what this short is about.
Interesting.
But it's a border crossing short film, and it's
all like preludes to his.
It is. That's what I'm saying. Like he made an African warlord movie. He made a border crossing short. And then eventually he made the border crossing movie, his first feature film, which is called Sin Nombre, came out in 2009. I have not been able to fully see this movie, unfortunately, because I just found out about it through you, RB3. Because I had no idea.
Yeah, we decided on Cary pretty late.
We did, and I tried, but it really did catch my attention. And the bit that I did see was something that hit me personally. Obviously, I always talk about it. I'm rolling my eyes at myself because I already hear people rolling their eyes while they're listening. Because here he comes again talking about this situation. But the border crossing concept, the border crossing reality of life between the border of Mexico and the U.S., between the border of Mexico and Guatemala, Mexico and Central America, these are the types of movies I would make, RB3. Because that's the situation that I'm most close to, and that's the situation that I'm most passionate for. Cary Fukunaga has this passion. He has the same kind of passion. I'm not entirely sure why. I'd be curious to find out. But he has this same kind of fascination with the horrible, visceral, destructive reality of crossing the border. And wanting to do this is another reality that a lot of people, I feel, here in this country ignore, because they kind of take it as like criminal. That's all they think as far as like people wanting to cross the border, and they don't realize that it's not criminal. It's literally like refugee type shit. Like this is some stuff that you're literally like, I'm probably gonna die doing this stuff. I'm gonna hike, 2,400 miles. And I'm probably going to die, but screw it. I'm going to do it. Why? Because if I die doing this, it's better than dying back there. That kind of situation. And I feel like a lot of people don't realize that kind of reality, where you're set in a reality where you're willing to risk your life to accomplish something, and that what you want to accomplish is grounded in roots of peace. It's grounded in roots of stability, and it's grounded in roots of support. Because that's all these people want to do for the most part. And we don't see that as getting much attention as we usually get other people getting that attention. And that's kind of the reality that he builds around these stories about these kids that are growing up in a world where it's literally run by gangs. Especially he highlights the Mara Salvatrucha, which everyone knows about, MS-13. And I've known about the Mara for years because, I've lived literally close to the border. So I've heard the horror stories, man. And it's crazy because about, I think 3 or 4 years ago in El Salvador, they kind of like had moments where they were kind of taking over the government, where it was literally like martial law. Mara is like, it was such a heavy influence that they would almost take over the government. Like gangs were like, like you had to get out of the damn country, and there was such a immigration is what the word is, instead of immigration of people just fleeing this country because there was so much of gang involvement. And I hear about this stuff because what a lot of people don't know, and what this film kind of highlights, is the border crossing between the U.S. and Mexico. The majority of those people, or the large portion of those people, aren't Mexican. They're all Central American. Guatemala, El Salvador, Panama. Like these are the countries that come in through Mexico, and that the immigration issue across the border of Central America and Mexico is the bigger immigration. And that's what people kind of don't realize, is that the super like refugee type people are coming from Central America. and not coming from Mexico. And that's kind of what the film highlights as well. And we see the gang violence, we see the desperation, and we see the reality of just a simple family wanting to make it as well. We see both sides, right? I know you didn't catch this movie, right, RB3? Okay, that's kind of why I'm talking a lot too.
Yeah.
But yeah, it really is. These are the types of messages and these are the types of situations that Cary Fukunaga wants to build on a narrative scale, where people can digest this type of information, digest this type of reality in a narrative type of way, right? And that's what he does in Beast of No Nation as well, right? What do you think about that as a brand of his filmmaking, of introducing documentary type content, right, with Beast of No Nation, and with Sin Nombre, or whether it be the border crossing, and make it into a narrative style so where American audiences can kind of observe and indulge this type of content?
Right. I mean, you have to tell those kinds of stories to get the messages out there. And I mean, I think, particularly with the stuff relating to the border and all types of violence that people just don't see in like regular media, you kind of have to portray narratively because you have to get a better understanding of the people in those situations. So through Cary making these movies, adding perspectives like the kid in Beast of No Nation, as I'm sure the protagonist in Sin Nombre, is to give a person, is to give an audience a viewpoint, some eyes to see this kind of lifestyle through and really add a perspective in it. So
yeah, especially through the mind of a child, right? It's that idea of like Cary takes everything to like the extreme. As far as like, we're not just gonna have some guy get beat up and get destroyed and lose his family. We're gonna have that guy be a 9-year-old kid. Like that's the same as in Sin Nombre, right? It's a child. It's like a 10, 11-year-old kid. So we're taking the audience's emotional status and just bringing it down to the corest, most deepest level of like awful feelings that you have inside of you, because you're seeing not just someone suffer, but you're seeing a child suffer. Someone who represents innocence. In my opinion, that's what a child represents, is innocence, right? Someone who doesn't have a decision in what's happening to them. It's just happening to them, and that's the reality of their life. I agree with you, man. It's one of those things where I was thinking about documentary filmmaking and how it's something that I might want to dive into as well. And the idea of, did you see the Paul Greengrass 22 July movie that just came out on Netflix 2 weeks ago?
I haven't seen it, no.
It's about the Norway shootings that happened in 2011 or 2013. I think it's 2011. I don't know if you remember this, but it's a Nazi guy who just dressed up as a cop and went to like a summer camp island. It was like a little island off Norway. Yeah. And he just had like a freaking assault rifle. I forget what gun he had. And just killed like 80 kids, like 70. Yeah. Jesus. It's one of the biggest like mass murder terrorist situations ever. And it's the most pure, evil, awful, like that's the true detective type stuff, right? Where they don't just see the mass murder of children is the most visceral type stuff. And I watched this movie and I'm thinking to myself, I'm taking in this content, I'm taking in this story, a real life story, right? Kind of like Beast of No Nation may be a real life story, or kind of like Sin Nombre might be a real life story. These real life situations, these real life type stories, and I'm seeing it through the mind of a child in that situation instead of in forms of documentary. And I think that's where it has an advantage, right? The narrative format telling a real life story, and how it can have a much more deeper impact than maybe me seeing like a border crossing documentary, or like some family in Tennessee watching like a border crossing documentary, or watching a documentary on child soldiers in Africa, right? It might have a deeper impact on you profoundly on an emotional scale if you see that in narrative format. I don't know if you agree with that.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think that's why, Cary doesn't shy away from doing these very extreme pieces of subject matter. And I read that he did like 2 years of research before going into like Sin Nombre, before production of it or whatever. And same thing with Beast of No Nation. He spent a lot of time out there in those countries that are affected by the child soldiers. And he looked firsthand. It's almost like investigative journalism to a certain extent, right? Like, you have to really be in the story to tell the story. And I think any director who puts themselves, who dedicates themselves so much to the portrayal of reality that these unfortunate circumstances like surround, that really makes for some powerful narrative storytelling.
Yeah, I mean, it really does have an impact on you, and it's a very bold form of storytelling, and it's a bold form of career choices too, right? If you think about Cary's career choices in general, he's very not shy to show what his thoughts are on certain subject matters, and he's not shy about being that director who's probably going to show you stuff that you don't want to see or you don't want to hear about because it's so visceral and real and horrifying, like Beast of No Nation and like Sin Nombre. Last thing for me on Sin Nombre is the fact that when you see these kind of stories, and obviously all credit to the cast, he street casted a lot of people. He street casted most of this movie, I believe. Getting like no name actors and just no actors in general. I know one of the girls in this movie, the girl who plays the main young girl who's crossing the border, is from Narcos. I've seen her in Narcos. Obviously, she's much older in Narcos because this came out in 2009. She plays Pablo's wife, and she's great. She's freaking dope. She's a really good actress that probably might get much more attention when she goes mainstream in the U.S. because I think she's Mexican. So that's kind of my last thing too, and the fact that these are the types of stories that I probably will tell in my future. I'm crossing my fingers because again, it's the most passionate thing I'm about, and it's the most firsthand accounts that I can give you, because I can give you firsthand accounts on the reality of living between Juarez and Mexico and Reynosa. They actually mentioned Reynosa in this movie too, and Reynosa and McAllen too. Let's move on to Jane Eyre.
Jane Eyre.
Jane Eyre. As you guys can tell, my connection to this movie is much lighter.
This is no Mexican border.
It's really no Mexican border,
18th century Victorian.
Hey, that's my other song. That's my other hometown, bro. I'm across the pond. I'm Mexican. I'm Colombian, but I got my love for them British dramas,
shows,
bro.
Yeah, British dramas, yeah. Nah, man. Jane Eyre is definitely one of those. This is an adaptation of a. I don't know if it's Jane Austen actually, but
it probably is.
It probably is.
It has
honestly,
to be.
I don't know, but it comes from that same like era, and it's definitely this as of all books of that kind of time period, it addresses social class, it addresses social issues, gender issues of the time, right? The expectations of being married. That's kind of the central theme of this movie, and the book and the literature. Now, to be honest, the only reason why I really know this movie is because in high school, this came out in 2011. In high school, 2014, I was in my senior year of English class. We read Jane Eyre. I did not read Jane Eyre, but I did partake in the movie. And this was obviously very critically acclaimed, so it was pretty good. But yeah, stars Michael Fassbender and the chick from Alice in Wonderland. I can't remember her name.
Mia Wasikowski? Mia Wasikowski. Okay, I'm not even gonna try it, bro. Mia from Alice in Wonderland is in this movie. She's Jane Eyre. I'm not gonna Mia. Mia W.
Yeah, and she actually gives a great performance as
she's
being
dope, man.
This troubled thing, and I think what this movie illustrates, that's clear throughout. Also, another clear theme that's throughout all of Cary's filmography is the theme of mental illness, right? How mental illness is a big driving factor, and a lot of people and a lot of Cary's films. This one in particular, it's a lot about the paranoia, right? The fear of not knowing who you're married to, and once it's revealed who the husband is, who Michael Fassbender's character is, how he's a guy who lives in this enormous house, but keeps a woman locked away in his closet. At the end of the movie, it's revealed that he keeps a woman locked away in his closet who he was married to previously. But like she went crazy. So it's how the mental illness of that affects her. It's about how our protagonist Jane Eyre herself, she doesn't necessarily want to partake in marriage in the same way that in the same way that society is expecting her to. But she's marrying this guy because he has stability, as it seems. But because she's put under societal pressure, she's put into the situation where she's full of fear, full of paranoia around this guy. She doesn't really know anything about who Michael Fassbender's character is. She's just felt like he was an appropriate one to marry. So it's just all these is all of these themes and ideas from that's carried over from what the Victorian era novels were about, but also like a postmodern aesthetic where it also feels very horror-ish, gothic, very eerie and scary and kind of nasty. So it gives a very subjective point of view to Jane Eyre, as opposed to the novel obviously portrays those emotions as well, but the film really gives an additional layer of subjectivity of perspective. So
yeah,
I really
interesting. Yeah, I mean, she's also the one from Crimson Peak.
Yes,
she was in Crimson Peak,
yeah,
which also has those kind of
gothic
elements. That super goth feel, the super eerie feeling that Crimson Peak has. I completely forgot she was in that.
Yeah.
How much did this movie get any award attention? Or
I don't think so, but I don't
think it did. Yeah.
I mean, this is one of the first big roles that Fassbender. I think this and Shame both came out in 2011.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So this one, I definitely remember Jane Eyre getting buzzed too, like around that the time of it being released. Again, I didn't see it, but
yeah,
when it came out, I just saw it for high school. But
yeah, Jamie Bell's in this movie too. That's interesting.
Jamie Bell, yeah, I think he's but I mean, it's a lot of different characters and aspects that all kind of interweave together throughout the story. So
it's written by Charlotte Bronte. So it is not who we thought it was.
Not Jane Austen.
Not Jane Austen. Yeah, that's interesting. So this is like an 1800s type novel that people have adapted. It's interesting too because we see that that type of storytelling. That I'm always curious because there's always going to be a crowd for that, man. There's always going to be a crowd for like 18th century British period pieces.
Well, yeah, but this one's more of a horror movie though. To a certain extent.
Okay.
Yeah, so like not maybe a horror, but like a thriller with like some spooky elements. So I think you probably enjoy it a little more than the traditional Pride and Prejudice, Sense and Sensibilities type deal. It's a little more. So this one has a little more tone to it.
Interesting. Yeah, and it's crazy talking about the kind of films that Cary Fukunaga likes to make and the kind of films that he likes to put people in. So far, all of them are pretty, I don't want to use that word that's always overused, but gritty. Yeah. Pretty gritty, pretty real, pretty in your face, pretty violent.
Yeah. Jane Eyre is a little whimsical too, to a certain extent. Okay. Yeah, but more towards the horror kind of unknown aspects.
Sure.
Yeah, but it's definitely and I think, but adding the elements of realism with subjectivity, I wouldn't say it's like not being realistic. I would just say it's more subjective, right? Like, I think the subjectivity of Cary Fukunaga's filmography too, even though I haven't seen Sin Nombre, but through Jane Eyre and then through True Detective, which we're going to talk about, all of those have a very specific point of view that makes the grittiness even grittier to a certain extent, right? Like you're experiencing it through a character that's dealing with these really like traumatizing type of situations, and you feel more for it because you have that added perspective.
That's good.
I think that's a lot of what he does.
And he does that a lot in his most biggest claim to fame, and that is True Detective. Mm-hmm. True Detective is 8 episodes. It is HBO. It is based on Matthew McConaughey and Woody Harrelson's performance. I think that's kind of the biggest thing that people take away from him. This is prime reconnaissance.
Oh, yeah. I think this is the
reconnaissance. Yeah.
This and Dallas Buyers Club, of course.
Absolutely, man. This is the straight up Matthew McConaughey with a super Southern accent, twirling his fingers as he's telling the story. I just really doing this, and it was crazy, and he's doing that whole thing. Right. But what is your connection to True Detective, man?
True Detective. So
I probably have a different one than you do.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't watch it like when it aired live.
Me too.
This was one. Actually, before season 2 came out, I binged it.
Okay.
Before, so I just knew, so I knew what. Even though I knew it was an anthology, but
I take it back though. I did when it came out. I did see it, like the premiere. Yeah, and I was like, nah. I can't lie. I remember watching it when it premiered, and I was like, nah. It's not for me.
Yeah.
And then I ended up going back to watch it and finish it because of all the big, buzz coming out of it. So yeah, my connection might be a little bit more similar to yours, where I was like not keeping up with it when it was out.
Nah, I didn't keep up. But I remember I was still a Schmoes fan during that time.
Oh, nice.
I remember JTE would not shut the fuck up about True Detective.
Yeah.
Like, every time this dude spoke, it was like
He still does.
True Detective. He still does. He loves that shit, man. So, but he was definitely, because I would definitely attribute JTE to being one of the sole reasons why I ended up picking up on season 1.
That's what's good. That's what I kind of feel like people should do more. I like GT because he does it. He did it with a few other things too. I forget which ones. Oh yeah, The Guest. Or was that GT or was that Cody? I forget who it was.
I don't know.
One of those two guys.
I don't really like that movie.
I like The Guest, man.
I mean, I like it.
Oh, I love that movie.
Yeah.
But True Detective, man, it deals with the storytelling narrative between retelling a story and then seeing that story between a 17-year gap of 1995 in Louisiana. To I think 2012, where this guy, Matthew McConaughey's character Rust, and Woody Harrelson's character of Marty, is going through this narrative of these Louisiana murders that took place. And it takes that setting. I think another character in this movie, in this show, is Louisiana. It's like rural Louisiana type setting. I think that's like a character within itself. And Cary is very vocal about putting that into his show and making Louisiana this eerie, swampy, creepy, almost like horror setting that McConaughey's character and Woody Harrelson's character have to like navigate around, right? Where the South is just this setting filled with Christianity and filmed with the conservative nature of the world, and yet you can see literally the face of the devil in this show because of that contrast that we see between Louisiana in the middle of nowhere, right? It's that hell of being in the middle of nowhere. And I feel like that's a huge element in the show itself. But the story basically deals with them retelling their encounters with this serial killer, and then being haunted by that same serial killer and realizing that maybe they didn't complete the mission of taking him out and have to do it now, 17 years later, as they're older guys and more like battered and bruised through what the life has taken them as being a detective, seeing the most horrifying type stuff. I mean, we even see Woody Harrelson say that, you know, when Matthew McConaughey, I think it's episode 7, where he asks him, like, why did you quit? And he says, like, I saw the most horrifying stuff. I saw like babies getting killed that I was just like, you know what? I'm out. I'm done. I don't want to see this stuff anymore. Like that, the type of evil that these guys would see affected them. And also the characterization of Matthew McConaughey's character, right? Because he is that weird, quirky guy.
Yeah, let's get to the shit, Ace. Do you think time is a loop, yes or no?
I was going to say, bro, there's some stuff in this show. And I know it's based on interpretation, and I know I take that interpretation and I stretch it to like the most extreme. So I personally, I'm a weird guy, you know this, man. So I believe in a lot of supernatural type stuff. So I take a lot of what's happening here as like really happening. like when we finally meet the scarred man, I don't know what they call him in the movie.
The yellow, something like that.
Yeah, I forget what it's called. The Yellow King.
I think so.
But when we finally meet the guy, I'm like, that guy's not human. No, he's not. He's like straight up like a demon, bro. Like you can't. And they give you hints at that too, obviously with McConaughey's character and with the whole freaking satanic worship stuff that's going on. But that kind of element of like taking the face of evil itself and confronting the face of evil and being on a mission, right? Because that's what Rust is on essentially throughout his entire life, on a mission to stop this evil. And he feels like this is almost like his holy mission. To stop this, no matter who, nobody believes him, and the system is working against him because the system can be a part of it. I think that too is like the biggest encounter of we see the Matthew McConaughey's neurosis as being a little bit loose, and yet he can use his kind of craziness, his obsession, his maniacal nature to be going after something to attack something that's pure evil. Right? And what's more pure evil than what they do in this show, which is horrifying to children, right? That's essentially what the entire show encapsulates. It's facing off against evil, and it's facing off against forces of nature that might be bigger than humans and might be bigger than humanity. Forces of darkness that might be working more than you realize that they're working.
Well, even you could look directly at what Matthew McConaughey's character believes. He doesn't believe that we're solo entities in the universe, right? I mean, he doesn't, or he has a very nihilistic perspective, to say the least, right? Matthew McConaughey's character, I can't remember his exact name.
Rust
has a very nihilistic quality. So for him, the issues, for him, life is nothing, because he just, he only he sees outside of just our reality. He sees the universe, right? Yeah. So he thinks from a very nihilistic perspective. So for him to be enlightened by this kind of trauma right at the end, just goes to show how much of a traumatic experience can directly influence a person's perspective on the universe. And how his jaded perspective against, not jaded per se, but how his perspective against the earth, how he feels just as a human, instead of being outside of, I don't know how to explain this correctly, but how his interpretation of the universe kind of affects his detective work. For him, it's not about understanding why the crimes are done. It's about getting inside the mind of the criminal, right? And for him, this was just that uncrackable case. He just could not get inside who this man was, because for him, men are just men. For him, people are just people. But for this entity in and of itself, it was just that unbreakable code that kept driving him all the way from the beginning of the case all the way towards the end. Yeah,
it really is the belief of not just, I don't want to say we are alone in the universe, but the concept of time, right? Because he talks about time, and he talks about how humanity or humans view time as linear and can interpret time only as linear, and how, truly how time can be a circle, and how we can interpret other times as a circle, and that there's, whether it be different dimensions or different realities or different beings that can interpret that time in a different way than humanity can. So our impact on time itself, and just how life is so insignificant to the rest of the universe, right? Where it's just it's a breath and then it's gone. And that's just life itself. That's part of it. But also towards the finale, because I rewatched the finale, how he talks about the stars in the sky, and how he would make stories up about the stars in the sky, and how he views the star as, the star itself is a life, right? The star has a life. It has a beginning, it has an end. And how it can just fade out, and it fades out eventually. Stars can do that. But how also there's so much darkness in the sky, and there's still little bits of light that are lighting up the sky, but how in the beginning of the universe there was only darkness, right? In the beginning of time itself, there was only darkness. So the fact that there's light in the sky, it's the battle between light and dark. That's what I got with what he was saying, was the fact that the universe is at war, and the war is between light and dark, and there is pure evil out there, with what we saw with freaking Scarred Man, who's just pure evil. And there is people trying to bring in that lightness. And when he walks in the finale, and when he walks into that, I don't want to say it's a cave, but the tunnel. And when he looks up and he sees basically hell, when the swirling, that you see what I'm talking about? And he feels that. He feels the presence of something that's evil. He feels the supernatural battles that are going on in the world without us realizing it. Again, I'm going super weird with you, bro, because I do believe in that stuff. I believe in the dimensional battles and all that stuff. And he realizes that what he's encountering is something that's not human. It's something that came into this world to bring in the darkness. And it's kind of like his mission to stop that. That's how I got from it. That's what I got from it. And the fact that this guy, I don't know how you interpreted him, Scarred Man, but the fact that he was just not just the fact that it's the most evil type stuff, right? Child sacrifice, targeting children, doing it throughout long periods of time, doing it through cover-ups of the government, and through the cover-ups of cops and police and churches and all this type of stuff, and using all that to perform acts that are not just satanic worship and demon worship, but just bringing actual demons into the world, to a point where this guy's, you can question the psyche, and that's probably what most people do in this and throughout this show, but I don't question the psyche. I question the reality of what they're experiencing, which is why when we first meet the guy and he's mowing the lawn outside of the cemetery, and he's like, yes, sir, you go down here and you go down the other way. And then we see him talk to whatever his sister-in-law or uncle, or I mean, not uncle, aunt, or whatever she is. And he's got like this heavy British accent. Did you notice that? Mm-hmm. And it's supposed to show you his psychosis throughout the story. But what I got it from was like, yo, this guy ain't human. Like, this guy's straight up evil. He's like, he's not even human. He's a freaking demon. And that's how he can turn so quick. That's kind of my situation with this show, man. The fact that this show can show you that, and the fact that the show can show you the narrative that Southern conservative Christian America has of the fact that it was covered up all throughout the schools, man. That to me was a big emphasis throughout the show, and I think that I personally got the biggest gulp out of that, right? The fact that it's not just child sacrifice, destruction, and rape and disgusting stuff, but it's all coming from the church, and coming from a cover-up of the church, right? And how Christian schools were covering up this situation, and how these Christian priests and Christian teachers and Christian counselors and influencers and pastors were covering up pure evil. The irony of that was something that I don't know if you caught that too.
Yeah.
Oh, you did? Okay, cool.
No, I was gonna say. I agree. I think that's definitely what they're saying. I think that's what they're saying on the surface level of it too, right? And then I think underneath it was really an allegory for how we cover up our mental illnesses, right? How we cover up what we're ashamed of, how we cover up what we don't, what we're not necessarily proud of, but we have to wear on our vest because that's just what's part of us, right?
Yeah, that's Matthew McConaughey's character.
Right. That's Matthew McConaughey's character, but it's like externalized through the church, right? Through this church kind of backing this ugly, not intentionally backing, but through their channels of trying to protect the community or protect themselves, they are funneling this really nasty, ugly part of the society, of the community, and through that, that is, I think, a big emphasis of mental illness, like within like Cary's filmography, but within this community in particular. We don't have enough research, enough backing on mental illness to fully understand what a lot of these people are going through. But if that was prioritized higher than say some of the kind of arbitrary Christian stuff that that Louisiana has been behind, then I'm sure it would have been a lot more of it would have been a lot different situation. But mental illness is largely unchecked in a lot of communities, and that's a big part of it.
That's absolutely 100% too. And I like how I'm talking about interdimensional warfare. And you're talking about mental.
But it's
because that's what I got from it. Yeah. I got interdimensional warfare. I personally love. Have you seen Avatar: The Last Airbender?
Yeah.
Have you seen the finale of Avatar: The Last Airbender when the lion turtle comes out of nowhere to give Aang the power to energy bend? A lot of people hate that, right? A lot of people who don't hate it but find it so convenient that it's the finale of the Avatar ending where the lion turtle comes out of nowhere. I interpreted that as like, because I'm a very spiritual guy, as like actual supernatural elements, spiritual elements that can actually influence time itself to give you that kind of convenience where there is so much evil in the world that somehow in a spiritual, supernatural type way, there comes an entity, a being, an angel, a god, or whatever you want to believe in, to give you that type of power to overcome the evil that is encapsulating the world. Again, this is me, but I love it because that's what I interpreted it from the lion turtle, was the fact that the lion turtle was like, I'm a spiritual being of like ancient time, and I'm coming to this dimension to give you this power to overcome Fire Lord Ozai, because he's too damn evil. So my interpretation of Matthew McConaughey's character was that being of the scarred man and him coming face to face with that, entity. And having the power to overcome it. That's what I took out of it too. And that's what I love about the show, is that there's so much to dive into. But one thing I do want to mention before we move on from it is the filmmaking itself, man. We have to talk about that. The shots, the camera movements, the acting,
the one take,
the oneer. Let's talk about that oneer, man. It's incredible. Yeah. It really is. I rewatched it again because I have to. It's one of the best oneers of all time. It's one of the best oneers in TV of all time. Would you say that?
Yeah, definitely. Did you see that new one that has been picking up like a lot of attention?
Which one?
On Showtime. I don't know.
Oh, I was gonna say Daredevil.
Oh, no, I'm not.
I love Daredevil, bro. Let's go. Daredevil season 3. That oneer was dope. You know what's another great oneer that I rewatched? Battle of the Bastards. Has one of the best oneers of all time.
That's another show I don't watch.
Game of Thrones.
Yeah, I know.
That oneer in Game of Thrones.
I haven't seen it.
It's so good. I think this one might. I think this might be the best.
Wait, did you hear about that new one?
No,
Jim Carrey. No, Jim Carrey has a new show that has a one take that literally is a camera spinning around in a circle in a living room. And this shit is like, now that shit is next level to me, man. Because what it is literally like people like flipping walls. Like there's a behind the scenes footage of it on Twitter. So I haven't seen the actual show. I've seen this clip. But it's just the camera rotating. As the camera rotates, like there's people literally behind like flipping walls, like changing entire set decorations.
Nice.
And then like as it keeps going, changing lighting, and then and makeup. Actors are changing makeup, so it's literally just all one take spinning around. But it tells like years worth of storytelling. Like it's crazy.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I the reason why I like this one is mainly because of the tracking aspect of it. Right, it's the fact that the camera can go, it can move like a human can. I think that's what makes it so eerie and so cool, is the fact that this oneer is just like, you're going inside houses, you're going outside houses, you're going over fences, you're going through stuff, and you're capturing it all in one shot. It's just, I don't know, man. I really do feel like this oneer might be one of the best of all time as far as TV. Best TV oneer of all time, because there's a lot of great ones too, man. But it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible, and it feels like you're going through that journey. And that scene is just crazy too, because it has to deal with the choreography of it, the timing, the blocking of like having everyone run at the right moment and shoot and have the guns and have the props and have the fights and have the stunts. And it's just incredible, man. It's absolutely insane. And it happens in episode 4, which kind of tells you going forward what you're about to see. That's amazing. Woody Harrelson and Matthew McConaughey give lifetime type performances on this show, man. They really do. It's like a one long movie performance. What do you think of the performances in this show? I mean, we have Michelle Monaghan too.
Michelle Monaghan, also great in this show as well. But I mean, it's definitely the Makana show. You know what I mean? Like that's definitely what it's supposed to be. But Woody Harrelson also brings like an extra layer of complexity to being just the cheater, not abusive, but like mentally abusive husband.
How does he keep getting all those girls, man? Please explain that to me.
Hey, man,
these aren't just girls. They're just like the hottest girls on the planet. And all of a sudden they're like, ooh, Woody Harrelson. I'm like, what?
Hey, man.
Woody Harrelson?
You got that
out of all the dudes?
You got that 720.
I guess, but I don't know, man. I that's the one thing that kept taking me out of the show. I like the most unrealistic thing in the show is the fact that he hooks up with like supermodels. But that's obviously a part of it too. But I think it's that scene at the finale, man, when he sees his daughters come into the hospital after what he just witnessed, and he just breaks down and cries because he realizes that's his connection and that's his interpretation of what his life is his daughters. So when he comes face to face with them, and then he realizes like what he just faced off against, he's like, oh my God, he just breaks down and cries because it's like, my God, you imagine like that happening to my family? That's what he carries throughout. That's what he carries as his motivation throughout the entire show, in my opinion. Any other things you want to say about True Detective?
Nah, it's a really dope show, man.
Yeah, it's good. Maniac is Cary Fukunaga's most recent project. It just premiered on Netflix, I think about 3 weeks ago, maybe more, maybe a month ago. I finished binging this show last weekend.
Are we going to talk about Beast of No Nation? Or?
Oh, I'm so sorry, Beast of No Nation. Beast of No Nation, I'm so sorry, man. Thank you for bringing me back. Beast of No Nation was, I think it's Netflix's first original. I might be wrong.
I don't know if it's their first original.
It's one of their first
originals.
originals.
It was definitely the first big campaign they put out. for their film.
I think it might be their first, but I might be wrong. But Beast of No Nation stars Idris Elba, and I forget the kid's name. But this was the child soldier Africa movie that got quite a bit of attention for a short amount of time, in my opinion, because it kind of disappeared after certain conversations. Man, it got no nominations whatsoever.
Not at the fault of
Oscars.
the movie.
Huh?
I mean, not the fault of the movie, the fault of the Academy for.
I agree. I agree. This had a lot of movie political stuff surrounding it, as far as Netflix, as far as this was Oscar So White. It came out that same year as Oscar So White campaign.
It should have been nominated over.
I 100% agree. Abraham Atta is his name, who plays Agu. What do you think of this movie, man? Because it's received some criticism as being a little bit too harsh, a little bit too violent, a little bit too.
People don't like the reality of the situation.
Hey, man, you didn't like Detroit because it was too much.
Nah, I mean, but that's different though. I think this movie actually. I think Detroit doesn't add context, and I think this movie does. It doesn't necessarily portray context either, but it does portray like the lifestyle. It does portray more of like a lifestyle being a child soldier, right? Like you see the community that this little kid grows up in. You see the family that he's stripped away from. You see, and in many ways is, a lot of times with these, these children in these war-torn countries, they don't have any say in the matter of who of what kind of job, if they'll be alive. First off, if they're alive, if they're gone, if they have to lose their family, it's complete, like it's completely like slavery, like all over again, right? But only to the extent that now you're putting like children at risk of fighting the wars. And of course they fight these wars because they're small, they get into places. And there's a lot more sympathy for children, so a lot more people are a little more hesitant to fight against children, rush children, and stuff like that. But all these are all like big themes that are impacting a lot of these African nations. I don't want to say like the wrong names of countries and stuff like that, but there are very specific regions that are highly populated with these like armies of children, that is just like truly devastating. But it's all over trade and lack of demand, and how these black markets kind of arise and cement, like it's not similar, but it's the same idea as like gangs, right? And we talked about Sin Nombre, how that movie is all about like gangs taking over. This is like the war, and this is like war and trade taking over in some of these nations. So it's just really crazy.
And the fact that they target children, right? Because they know that children are more susceptible to manipulation, and the fact that you can brainwash children a lot easier, and you can get them to do stuff that other people might question you for, right? It's like, I'm doing this because I'm an authority figure and I'm older than you and I know more than you, and I give you food.
There's no choice of what's right or wrong. You don't know. Know that.
There's no choice, but there's also like the paternal kind of atmosphere that is provided with these African armies is the fact that the commandant, Idris Elba's character, can tell you, hey, I give you your food, man. Why are you complaining about this? Didn't I just give you food? Like that kind of manipulation where it's like you're telling these kids, it's like be loyal like a dog, where I provide food, I give you a place to sleep, so now you have to go kill that person for me. Yeah. Like I'm your sole provider. I'm basically your god. It's that's essentially what the commandant represents in this movie, is the fact that they're manipulating the minds of children to do certain things and experience certain things and be scarred mentally in a certain way, to where they're much more easily moved and easily manipulated, and they can almost be like a puppeteer working with these kids. It's creepy. It's really eerie, disturbing stuff that this movie shows, for sure. And it shows the reality of like what you said. A lot of African nations actually deal with this type of stuff. That's what's so disturbing about it. What do you think about
that's what generations of apartheid and segregation would do to a lot of countries too.
Absolutely. What do you think of the cinematography in this movie?
It's dope. I mean, this is one that Cary shot himself, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Let me check, but I think he did.
Yeah, he shot this movie himself and used the. I think the cinematography is gorgeous. I love the use of the infrared footage that pops up occasionally throughout this story.
He shot it himself, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's what's great about Cary. Let's mention that a little bit too. Is the fact that he can be a cam op. He can be his own cinematographer. It's the fact that Cary himself is. Not just a visionary when it comes to storytelling, but with actual like shots and looks and visions and feel and texture and color.
Yeah, no, he's all about that cinema, baby. And I think that's and you see that definitely throughout the production design of this movie. This movie has a very luscious kind of feel. Even though it's a Netflix movie, Netflix put a good amount of money behind this, and you could tell because it doesn't, they don't cheapen out on the nature of these interactions that these these children of war have to deal with, right? You see the tanks, you see the explosions, the gunfire, all of this really crazy stuff crawling through the jungle, all this stuff that and again, because of Cary being such a very subjective director, he really puts you in the driver's seat. Of a lot of these characters, and you really feel like you're immersed, particularly with the kid. I mean, the kid, you're basically him throughout the entire movie. So all of these like crazy, war like type of Vietnam style, like going into these like small villages and rummaging through them. It's just like it just feels very real and authentic and very nasty and gritty.
That's I mean that's what Cary likes to do. He likes to make you feel like, wait a minute, is this a movie or are they actually going like in battle and making you feel like all these people are real like African soldiers, and similar to Sin Nombre, right? Where you feel like, oh, these guys are they actually gang members? Like you feel that. You feel like you're questioning whether you're watching a movie or not, because it's so real to the point that you feel like you're actually watching not actors, but real life people do this type of stuff. And that's what makes it even more disturbing, right? Because you're watching this movie and it makes you feel like this is real, like this is legit real. So yeah, I mean, absolutely. This is what kind of gave Cary Fukunaga that, style of telling you these types of stories. And we talked about it before with Sin Nombre, is the fact of taking these real situations and making them into narrative stories. What do you think of the acting in this movie? Specifically Idris Elba first.
He's good. I mean, he's great. His accent's off, but
I was gonna say, do you think it's Oscar worthy?
Yeah, definitely Oscar worthy.
Okay.
It would be Oscar winning if his accent was right, but.
Is it Nigeria? Is it Nigeria?
It just isn't right, man. I mean, because I was watching it. I think it is Nigerian, but I was watching it. I think with a Nigerian. I think this. And he was like, and he just broke it all down for me. He was like, this is wrong. This is wrong. This is wrong. This is wrong.
Oh, so you watch it with an African guy?
Yeah. The way he's saying this is wrong. The way he's saying this. I mean,
what's funny?
Great. Yeah.
I saw this with afterwards. I talked about it with a British homie. Yeah. This black British homie of mine, who's a friend of a friend.
Yeah.
He told me the same thing.
Yeah.
He's like, no, bruv. This ain't no Nigerian accent, bruv.
Yeah.
You can tell he's from London, mate. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know. Yeah. And he's like, yeah, man, his accent's all off, mate. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know that.
Nah, it should have been like.
He sounds like a African guy who moved to England.
Yeah, like
that's his accent.
What's the character's name in the little kid's character?
Agu.
Agu is like in the movie he'd be like, "Come here, Agu," like and a real Nigerian be like, "Come here, Agu," like something like that. You know what I mean? Yeah. It'd be a little bassier, It'd be a little But hey,
I feel like he's like a Nigerian homie living in London for a few years. Also, I think that's his accent. It jumps in and out between like African and like British African.
It's not even doesn't jump back and forth.
No, I think it does.
British African the entire time. But that's funny. I think but beyond the accent, the rest of the performance is spectacular, and I think he has a lot of dimension. If you have to trade a bad accent for a great performance, take the great performance over the bad accent, because he definitely adds the layers of complexity of this character, because you kind of sympathize with him for a little bit until like he starts like
doing more messed up stuff.
And he started touching the kid.
That's when you deserve to get killed.
Yeah. So the fact that he pieces out at the end, it's like, all right, good. Yeah, that's nice.
What do you think of Abraham Atta as Agu?
Great performance as well. Yeah, I mean he definitely again I think this is his first role
was.
ever.
He's another guy who was street casted. I think Cary Fukunaga said he met him like playing soccer.
Yeah.
Like he was playing soccer and he just was casting him. And I think he said that he thought that he was like some sort of scout. That Cary, that was like Cary was like a soccer scout, and he was like super excited because apparently he was really good. At playing soccer. That's crazy, right? That you can kind of get these kids and basically make them actors.
Yeah, I mean, he might have been escaping a situation, that might put him there. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's the famous Slumdog Millionaire. Sin Nombre did that too. Cary did that, and then Beast of No Nation too did that situation of getting these actors. Do you feel like that's a good thing, or do you feel like that's a bad thing?
No, it's good. I think any director who casts as many non-actors as possible. I think that's part of what makes great filmmaking is the authenticity of it. And I know Gus Van Sant is a director who often puts a mixture of professional actors and non-professional actors in his movies to kind of give it a little extra layer of having authenticity. I think that's the approach that a lot of directors should take.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this movie deals with a lot of tragedy. It deals with a lot of emotions. Obviously, the loss of a family and then getting your new family, I guess, your replacement family. What do you think it has to say as far as in a political atmosphere?
I don't know. I don't know a lot of politics that like happens in Africa. I can't really speak to that much, as much as I can like in America. But I mean, I think if anything, you're saying stop the child wars, stop the child warfare. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know
That's simple. Yeah.
I don't know what side of the political spectrum that falls in and within those countries. Within the continent of Africa, but like
That's the problem, man. Everything can be so much. To feel such tragedy between like not trusting your government and you feel like your government is hurting your own people, but at the same time having like these rogue militaries kind of rise up and do situations that feel like they're for the people, but at the same time do so much harm as well. Right? There's always two sides of facing off against two evils. And they're both doing atrocities, right? And I don't know. I just feel like that's always a difficult thing that happens in so many countries, South American countries too, and dealing with. I mean, obviously, I'm from Colombia, so I've dealt with la guerrilla. I don't know if you know what that is.
I'm not sure.
It's the people who are separating away from the government and who've kidnapped a lot of people in the past in Colombia. It's been a huge thing that's happened for years and years and years and years. And it's that mentality of like putting up with these people who feel like betrayed by their country and also doing atrocities or committing things that people might not agree with. Have you seen Narcos? They talk about it a lot in Narcos.
I've seen Narcos. No.
Narcos talks about it a lot too. But it's a difficult situation, I guess, is what I can put it at, putting it lightly. Any last word on Beast of No Nation before we move on to the show you were just watching before you came here? So Maniac just came out on Netflix about a couple weeks ago, if not a month ago. Like I said before, stars Emma Stone and a very skinny Jonah Hill. Like it took me out of the show. I'm like, bro, you look like you haven't eaten in forever, bro.
Hey man, he's looking good, man.
Is he looking good, or is he looking like, bro, you gotta eat something, man?
Hey man, he's looking depressed, which his character is. So
I guess that's how it's supposed to be. A good way to get in role. It's like my character's supposed to be depressed. Oh, I just don't eat.
I mean, he shifted weight for the for 21 Jump Street before the pass, right? Like,
did he?
Yeah, he lost a bunch of weight for that one, and then
but not this much, bro.
Yeah, I mean,
I feel like this is the skinniest Jonah Hill I've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, I saw an interview with him talking. I guess it was on Jimmy Fallon or whatever.
About mid-90s?
Yeah, something like that. And then, or I don't know if it was for that one in particular, but it might have been a while ago. I'm not 100% sure. But he was like, yeah, I was just talking to Leonardo DiCaprio, and he's like, man, I gotta lose some weight. And he was like, Leo, how do I do it? He's like, just shut the fuck up and exercise. So I think that's the approach that Jonah Hill. So to him, man, if he feels good, being that skinny, you know. But, hey, that's dope though that he kind of nails the depressed, like fucking I hate my life because I feel this way. But other than that, I think this show is like honestly one of the best Netflix products that they put out there, man. Like,
we agree, RB3.
Hey, man.
We agree.
So we're finally on the same page.
Finally, man. Yeah. I mean, I really like this show. I mean, the first 4 episodes, I binged it, and I was like, man, this is real good.
Yeah. It's like Legion, but like...
Yeah, and then I kept getting into it, and I was like, man, you know what this is, man? This show really holds a lot with Emma Stone and Jonah Hill. They carry this show. They really do. Obviously, the writing, the directing's all great. But if their interpretations of these characters and in their, in whatever it's called, the realities that they're experiencing with the pills that they're taking, if they weren't convincing or if they weren't at least entertaining, then I don't know if this show would work. But the fact that it's Emma Stone, an actress who I think is dope. I think I don't know if I mentioned to you last time how Birdman, La La Land, like she kills it, man. She kills it in everything she does. And I think Easy A. She kills it in this role, man. I don't know who you think is the standout, but I think it's Emma Stone by a little bit, just because I feel like she kills it in her performances. And I really enjoy this show, man. I really enjoy the concept of the show, of experiencing this alternate universe type of thing where I can easily digest it because I'm a fan of comic books. So I'm used to having like alternate universe type stuff. But yeah, I really do enjoy this show, man. What do you think it is about this show that is making audiences enjoy it so much?
Well, I think it's just different, I think people want different. Now, in reality, is it really that different? I mean, honestly, not.
True.
If you watch Legion, you get a lot of the same ground covered. If you watch Leftovers, you get a lot of similar ground being covered. But for Netflix, this is their first like real experimental venture. I'm sure they've done other like experimental shows in the past. I just haven't watched them. I thought Altered Carbon was going to be that too, but apparently it wasn't the way you described it.
Did you see Altered Carbon?
No, I didn't know.
Oh, come on, man. You got to watch it.
Well, I thought it was more of an experimental thing, but the way you describe it is more of an action.
It's more of an action.
Yeah, so
like a Star. I told you it's like a Star's version of Blade Runner.
Yeah, no.
If Stars did Blade Runner.
Yeah, I'm chilling on that, but
it's dope, bro. Or if like Cinemax did Blade Runner,
Cinemax, but not HBO. It's not.
No. It's like Stars. Like,
yeah, I know. Yeah,
okay, I was gonna say if you see Spartacus, you know what I mean.
Yeah,
have you seen Spartacus?
I haven't seen Spartacus. No.
Oh, bro, it's great because it's that weird balance of like over the top, super over the top, but it still kind of works and it still kind of meets in the middle of like taking serious subject matter, but having super over the top elements. That's Altered Carbon.
Yeah.
But
Maniac is definitely a little more experimental track that I really enjoy in TV. Like I said, it's very reminiscent of Legion and the fact that it takes place in this mental facility, and it's about these mental illness patients who have to jump from reality to reality and what's real and what's not real.
Do you remember the name of the pills?
ABC. They're ABC pills. I don't know.
Like, but it was like confrontation.
Confrontation
is the last one.
Confrontational one, yeah.
It's acceptance, something
know.
confrontation.
No,
basically, I love how they introduced that, and I think it's episode 2 or 3, where they're like, "You will experience the worst moment of your life," and you're like, "Whoa, wait a minute! You didn't tell me this before, man." I love that. It's like the fact that it's like, "What am I taking? Oh, you're putting in the worst experience of what?" Right. It's like I don't want to experience that, but eventually they do, and they experience that, and then they experience different realities with the B pill, and the C pill, I think.
The C pill, I don't know fully what the C pill does.
I remember it's called confrontation, but
it's confrontation.
It's confronting your worst moments and yourself. I think it's what it was.
Yeah,
and your own psyche.
But yeah,
because they give you your psyche val halfway through the show. I think it's episode 6 or 7.
Yeah,
when they say, "Oh, you're schizophrenic, bipolar, blah blah blah," and you're like, "Whoa, I am," and then they have you do the confrontation.
Yeah, I mean, I don't fully know where the show like ends, so I don't like want to fully say like this is what the show means.
Sure, I do, but I won't. I'll give you a chance to finish your 30 minutes left in the show.
right. They're good sized episodes too. We got follow that strategy more, people. Let's get the 30-minute drama back. 30-minute dramas. But I definitely think that what they were aiming to achieve is like you're confronted with the problems that you think you have, or the problems that society will say you have, but then within the C pill, within the confrontational side, you confront the personal issues, right? You confront what's inside of you that you're battling. And from what they're headed was really dope. I mean, I love the first part of episode 9 where it was like Jonah Hill was like in a gangster movie, and Emma Stone was like in Game of Thrones or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not really big on fantasy stuff in general.
I love it.
But so that was, I'm like her character. Like, I don't know, what are you doing?
Yeah.
But I did love when those two came to a head in that like really dope hotel.
Did you see the I'm a hawk?
Yeah.
What's going on? Oh my God, this is really hard.
Yeah.
I'm coming. Can you see me?
See for me, that was like, finally I get to hear some joy in Jonah Hill's voice in this show. Like,
That killed me.
My God.
It made me laugh so hard.
Yeah.
That was a funny moment for me. I forget there was another funny moment that I actually enjoyed. Oh, you know who I think is amazing in the show, and he's a revelation. By revelation, I mean I've never seen the guy before, and he's just killing it. The guy who plays his brother.
Oh, Jed?
I forget his name, but the guy, you know, the mustache guy who comes out in all his realities.
Yeah.
Jonah Hill's brother.
Yeah,
he's
Jet.
great, dude. He's great. He's really freaking good.
Douchebag guy.
Yeah. He's great as a douchebag, and when he starts singing, every
chick.
breath you take, I was like, oh, yes, this guy's amazing.
I'd be like Jonah Hill. I walk out of that too. He was
you kill yourself after that.
Yeah, definitely. Isn't that guy in the? Isn't that guy also in? He's in one of the. He's either in Big Short. Or
one of the Adam McKay movies?
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't recognize him.
Yeah, but he's really good. And I think, you know, I also want to give a big shout out to Justin Theroux in this show, man. Justin Theroux came through.
Playing a weird, quirky, mad scientist type guy.
Yeah. I also love the idea of the computer having to go through therapy as well.
I love the idea of his interpretation of reality and the world. And Jonah Hill's, Emma Stone's, everyone's character. Comes from your own personal life.
Yeah.
How
Your
he
parents too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That to me was the biggest thing, because I felt the same way, because I have a huge connection to my parents, good or bad, right? It's that you take some bad stuff and you're like, oh my God, it's my mom being this way, and this guy's like 36 years old or something, and he still has that like, oh, it's my nagging mom and she's gonna ruin my life, and it's still that situation of how I'm a brilliant scientist, but I still have to deal with the personal relationship with my mother. Like, that to me was so cool, and the fact that he replicated the machine as his mother, the computer as his mother. I was like, that's real. That's real life.
That's the whole thing. Well, that's the whole thing of people, you know, who want to escape the characteristics of their parents, actually end up exactly replicating.
Yeah, and creating a reality that their parents created.
Yeah. Now, granted, he didn't input his mother into the computer.
That's
it was
true.
The other.
I was gonna say, bro, who did I crush on so hard in this show?
I knew it. Who said it in the comments? Was that Tony Wagner?
No,
Tony Wagner.
You guessed another ace crush. Ace crush number 2. I can't lie, bro. As soon as she came on screen, she had the goofy glasses. She was smoking a cigarette. She got a lab coat on. She got them bangs. I was like, she was like half Japanese, half British. I'm like, who this? It was distracting, man. Dr. Fujita.
Who's the young lady who plays her?
Her name is Sonoya Mizuni.
Nice.
Sonoya Mizuni, half British, half Japanese. Just that I was like, bro, this is like perfect for me, bro. I was falling in love, man. It was so distracting, man. Every time she was saying something, I was like, damn, girl. What you doing later tonight, girl? Like, I'm me talking back to the screen.
Hey, man.
She's from freaking Ex Machina, and she's the dancing girl.
Dancing girl.
From Ex Machina. She's also in Crazy Rich Asians. She plays the British girl in Crazy Rich Asians. I don't know if you remember her.
Oh, really? Damn. Oh, she really 2018 is the year, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
She's great, man. I love it. I love her.
Yeah, no, she was great.
No, I'm kidding.
And I thought the other doctor before Justin Theroux came in was also
hilarious.
Yeah,
he's great too.
Yeah.
And also shout out to the homie from oh my God, I'm gonna get his name wrong, and I feel bad, but he has a small bit role in this show. It's the homie who plays the genie in Aladdin, the Broadway musical.
I've seen that one.
I don't know. I just thought his name is James Monroe Eaglehart. Carl. He played the freaking one of the orderlies in the show.
That guy.
Yeah.
Weak.
Shout out to him, man. Good for him.
Yeah, man. See, that's funny, man. I think
he comes from Broadway. He's got like a huge Broadway background.
I think this show has a really good blend of humor and science fiction and but personal drama too. I think it has a really good sense of personal drama. And while also being a hint of fantasy as well, because I feel like you said, it's like an alternative future to a certain extent, right?
Yeah.
Like there's nobody in the show who's using cell phones. everybody's using like landlines, these old computers, this like raggedy technology with like this jank like radiation, but meanwhile, like there's clearly a much more advanced universe like around them. I also think that the aesthetic choices in having the pills actually be different letters A, B, and C, obviously for what they represent, but
sure,
just the actual context into the world, like this, it just clearly spells out.
You know what it was, man?
What's that?
And I say this all the time, but it's so true. It was anime.
Yeah,
it's super anime.
I agree. Yeah, it takes a lot from that.
It takes the Japanese, and it's very.
It's like Okja. Like Okja took a lot from that too. And I think
yeah,
it's very tonically consistent with Okja.
It's very anime type tone. It's very anime type world building where anime, people always think of anime and they think like Attack on Titan or Dragon Ball Z. Like there is a lot of anime stories that are like this, where it's just about people's psychosis and it's about like a different reality and people are diving into their own psychosis. Like stuff like this type of stuff is what anime dives into. It builds a reality, it establishes a world, establishes a tone that is flowing in and out of comedy. There's comedic moments and there's serious moments. And this show is very upfront about its Japanese influences, right? It's very otaku in some sense. It's got a lot of elements of like when they're watching the short video and you see Justin Theroux, hello guys, welcome to this experiment. We're gonna do, that's super anime. Like that's the most anime type stuff. And the fact that half the show is speaking in Japanese too, like it has a lot of influence of anime for sure.
Yeah, no, and I think I love that.
I love it too.
I love when movies, particularly two Netflix properties of anything, like Maniac with this one. I think Okja from last year also took a lot of the anime qualities and really found a good use for them.
Yeah.
And I love that it has that little extra layer of expressiveness, some more variations of tone. That I think are really funny. I think this movie has a consistent baseline, but also it can get wacky from time to time, which I really appreciate. I also think his version of like the 1980s is pretty funny too, with the
lemur stuff.
Yeah, with the lemur and all that stuff.
And it's the same guy.
The
lemur guy was the guy from True Detective who plays the evil psycho in True Detective.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Big dude.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Damn, I did not know that. Interesting.
Yeah.
I thought the bulletproof fur coat was funny.
Yeah, that's a good point, man.
Yeah.
That was the thing that made me laugh, was that episode of when he was getting shot and he was just like... and then he turns around and he's getting shot from behind. And his brother's like, no!
Yeah.
No! And he's still getting shot.
Yeah.
And he's finally getting the dance moves down. Because he was trying to teach him dance moves that whole episode.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That
made me laugh.
That shit's funny. I also love
that's dark comedy, but it's funny.
The ad buddy is hilarious to me too.
Which one?
The ad buddy, whenever they like need an advertisement like read to them.
Oh yeah.
Have somebody sit next to them and read the ads.
That's great. Yeah.
So there's some really great science fiction elements to it. I also think it speaks to a larger narrative of technology and mental health too, right?
Yeah, socializing with people.
Yeah.
That's a huge part of the show.
But for me, the biggest takeaway for me, at least, like it kind of blew my mind the most, was the imprint of the mother's, played by Sally Field, her brain into the computer. But how her brain is almost like a mirror of herself, or at least her, they account for like early theoretical work, how that is a reflection of herself, but she is unable to break her own code, right? And she is unable to figure out and resolve, at least I don't know where episode 10 goes, but at least up until episode 9, she can't even, she's a therapist, she's a professional, she's like this world celebrity therapist, but she can't even crack her own code. She can't even crack her own brain and figure out what she's internalizing, because the issues that the computer holds is the issues that she's going to hold, and how giving a computer artificial intelligence, giving a computer personality, a mind, and emotions is going to make it as complicated as a human being. But, once, artificial, but the whole idea of intelligence is curiosity, right? And once you start having a computer asking questions, and once you have a computer begin to get curious about the nature of reality and the things that humans have to deal with, there's much more access to information that is cynical, right? And cynical by nature. Technology is cynical by nature, just in the fact that it's distracting us, is not intended for us to be solely consumed. But all that being said, I think that's why is so effective in this show that the mother is literally a therapist who has to sit down with herself and just can't do it, who just can't and won't acknowledge her faults. And the Justin Theroux character, creates this whole introduction into technology to undermine his mother's profession, right? He wants to fix the mind through technology, through science. Her idea is more of the therapeutic,
talk it out.
Yeah, the what they would consider the soft sciences, right? The pseudosciences, the soft sciences, how they would but he wants to confront it from a different perspective, and they have to meet somewhere in the middle for that.
That's good. Yeah, and it's also like the relationship he has with his mother, I think, is like a huge thing, a huge part of the show that I feel like is very realistic.
Kind of hints at some incestual stuff though.
Oh, whoa. I didn't catch that, RB3.
I mean, I just thought like...
I'm too busy looking at Dr. Fujita.
Weak. But there's some lines in there where he was like, you hug me too tight sometimes, you slept in my bed too many nights. Yeah.
That's true, yeah.
I thought it was...
But I didn't take that as like, anything further than that.
Yeah, I think there's something.
I'm too busy looking at Dr. Fujita. That's my excuse for everything. I didn't catch that. Oh, I wonder why.
Yeah. I think there was another moment like that came before that too. I was like, that's a little weird.
It's when they kissed.
Yeah. So I definitely think there's some. Also, do you see the dude she was dating, man?
Yeah.
Damn, that dude was like half her age, man.
Yeah, I know. That dude was like a Latino soap opera star. That's how soap opera stars look in Mexico.
Hey, that's why he was so traumatized. That's his trauma maybe from his mother is maybe why he was so traumatized. Going in where he had to take a break from his experiment. I mean, when we meet him, he's literally in like a virtual reality sex toy thing.
His sexual interpretation is very skewed.
Yeah, he might have
issues.
He might have issues, man.
Yeah, man.
Parental issues.
Yeah, that's life. People actually deal with weird stuff like that.
Yeah,
so
man.
I think that's a good thing that the show kind of deals with. Last thing I want to say, the girl who plays her sister, Julia Garner, is from Ozark. Have you seen Ozark?
I've seen the first episode
of season 1.
Yes,
dude, Ozark is so freaking dope.
Okay,
I'll
get it. I'll watch it.
Season 2 was so good, man. And she's one of the main characters in season 2. She's amazing in that show, man. She's so freaking good. Obviously, she didn't do much in this show, but
I'm not gonna lie. I didn't like the first episode of Ozark, man. I thought it was just too much like Breaking Bad. Like
it is very much Breaking Bad, but it gets better.
It gets better.
Yeah, and season 2 is so good, so freaking good. But yeah, man, my thing is mainly Jonah Hill and Emma Stone, and the fact that the different characters they play, the fun that they have.
Yeah. I think they have a lot more fun in this show than like people are giving them credit for.
I
know
so
a lot of people are clowning Jonah Hill like on Twitter, with those memes of like sad Jonah Hill now,
Oh, because he's so skinny now. Or?
Well, he just looks so sad, like all the time in the show. I don't know. I think it shows range, but I also think he does have some like really fun moments.
I mean, I think it's episode 9, right? When he's inside the CIA bunker.
Yeah. And he's like the foreign guy.
Like, I've taken extreme caution to take. Like he's having pure fun in that character.
Yeah, I think the '80s think he had a lot of fun too.
Yeah. I mean, they're having a blast. What'd you think of the Oner?
When they're
action
escaping
scene.
in the I thought it was pretty dope.
Yeah,
I thought it was pretty dope.
I was like, oh shit, it's a Oner.
Yeah,
he's doing it again
with the elevator staying open.
Yeah,
I thought they were gonna take the elevator all the way up and then get out and then keep the one take going, but they cut after that. I also really admired the color design in this show, right? Because a lot of times we don't really like acknowledge how the way the color kind of influences.
Dude, the color is so important.
Yeah, and especially for a show like this, is very vibrant and lively. Neon, but also very rainbow-esque influence too. I mean, the side of the building has a giant rainbow on the side of it. But even when they're inside of the mind filter thing, the lights change color as according to the emotion that the computer is feeling. Also, the way the characters are dressed, all of it is very
the
particular.
aesthetic, the production design is amazing.
Yeah,
the white coats that everyone's wearing, the vibe that they have going on with the other Japanese people who are working for them. It's just so freaking cool, man. It's really freaking cool.
Yeah, definitely one of the top Netflix shows.
Definitely one of my favorite shows of the year for sure.
Yeah.
All right, guys, those are our thoughts on Maniac. Those are our thoughts on Cary Fukunaga. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed. Hopefully, you guys don't think we're maniacs, especially me, especially after my whole True Detective rant.
Man, I agree.
I'm gonna lose some followers, bro.
I agree, man. I agree. There's triple.
Yeah. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that episode. Let us know what is your favorite Fukunaga project. What is your favorite part of his movies, his shows, favorite episode of Maniac. Let us know in the comments down below. We're gonna be reading them next week, and we'll be waiting for you next week here on the Meaning of Podcast. And for the Meaning of Podcast, I am Ace.
This is RB3,
and we are peacing out. Peace out, guys.